managing and protecting the world's grueling number of endpoints, enabling Tanium's customers to see, control, and protect every endpoint everywhere. Tanium's mission is to provide certainty in uncertain times with the industry's only converged endpoint management. Trusted by the U.S. military and the majority of the Fortune 100, Tanium helps manage and protect nearly 30 million endpoints. Tanium, the power of certainty. Visit securityweekly.com/Tanium to learn more. Companies big and small are using AwareGo's human risk assessment to measure the human risk factor in cybersecurity. This interactive solution allows companies to measure employees' knowledge and behavior across threat vectors such as phishing, passwords, sensitive data, and more. After completing the assessment, CISOs can identify vulnerable departments and roles and improve internal policies or procedures. Visit securityweekly.com/AwareGo to start your free trial. Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. Do you have a specific guest or topic that you want us to cover in one of the shows? Submit your suggestions for guests by visiting securityweekly.com/guests and completing the form. We review suggestions monthly and will reach out to you once reviewed. You have no excuse for not liking the guests on this show. Suggest them. Just toss them our way. Send them our way. All right, now for the Enterprise Security Weekly news. You can check out securityweekly.com/ESW288 if you want to check out the stories that we're going to be covering today. And I had time to put lots of comments on today's stories, and we have lots of stories because we skipped a week. And starting off, lots of funding. Funding is back. So I think the last one we had, there were maybe 2 funding announcements. And now we've got, and I didn't even put them all in here, but there's at least 12 here. And the first one, we've already mentioned password managers a few times during today's interviews, but Bitwarden gets its opportunity to grab $100 million. Why not?
I've never even heard of Bitwarden. Have you heard of Bitwarden? Is that something you've used before, or you
no
LastPass like the rest of the world, or 1Password?
So the thing that's different about Bitwarden is it was open source. It was a free one. So I'm not sure what the funding is for. I'm not sure if they now have a paid version, or if
they have an enterprise grade product now, and that's what it's being used for. But it's still built on open source, so they're touting that as one of the better features, so that people can look at code, and that makes them feel more secure about using the product.
Maybe that was the plan all along, because I knew people using Bitwarden specifically because it wasn't. I think you could use it offline, where it didn't have an online sync, or if you did online sync, you could kind of roll your own and like use your Dropbox or something like that. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Maybe I'm thinking of KeyPass. I don't know.
They all roll together. So, you listed at least 4 additional ones here: 1Password, Dashlane, Keeper Security, LastPass, and now we've got Bitwarden. Excuse me. Do we need that many? Is it really that big of a market?
That's the question. I would love to see widespread adoption, especially consumer adoption of this. Everybody I know is constantly forgetting their password. And I mentioned password managers, but initially setting one up, like it's easier to use to have a browser remember your password, but if you don't use the same browser in each place, or if you don't enable sync between them, if you don't log into your browser, it's only going to be saved on that one browser. And then you have to remember where your password's saved. I think it's worth the time to go ahead and set one up. But I'm super nerdy, and in 1Password right now, I bet it's over 1,200. I'm not even sure how I can tell how many I've got in here. I'm pretty sure it's over 1,200 accounts.
Yeah, you have 1,200 accounts in there. Wouldn't it be nice to actually kill, delete, and remove the actual accounts you don't use? Because I promise you, 80% of those you haven't logged into in forever.
Yeah, but I mean, for what benefit? Like when I need to use something, I used a search bar, and like I've tried to go in there and clean it up, and I'm like what is this? How is this benefiting me?
Well, I'm not talking about you necessarily doing it. Wouldn't it be a really cool feature inside of that universe that says, you logged into Ultimate Guitar in 1998 when it was first built and set up an account and it's being managed, wouldn't it be a neat feature to go, I haven't played guitar in 15 years, click delete and have it automatically nuke the account from that system? That would be pretty amazing.
So 1Password does have a feature called Watchtower where it does give you some statistics on your accounts, but most of them are based around threat intelligence. Like it'll tell you which websites got compromised that you have accounts on. It'll tell you how many accounts you've reused passwords on, how many weak passwords you have. But yeah, it would be like if I'm using 1Password to log into all my stuff, it knows that I haven't logged into something for years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be a good feature. I would like that. Like, show me all my stale stuff, or even better, like go kill my account for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like an auto kill.
Archive. Hey, you haven't used this in a year. We're going to auto archive it, and you can review your archived account at any time. So maybe not auto delete.
See what I'm talking about is a
repository of things that you're not using, so you can at least review them and then manually delete them if you want.
Yeah, see that's the thing I'm kind of getting at, is the nuking of it, right? Because 1,200 accounts, how many of them do you actually use, Adrian? It's not many. There's plenty of them that haven't been accessed in forever, and the ability to delete them. Now the problem is, like, a lot of those systems that you one-time log into or whatever don't even have the ability to nuke your account. Like, it's not even a feature in the system. So, that would be the big catch.
It's here. I can sort my 1,267 items by recently used, and then by least recent.
And can you then click and nuke them?
Well, it's not going to go to the website and delete my account for me, but this is amazing. It even tells me the date, like when it was created and when it was last modified. So no, I pretty much got it. Like I last used HipChat in 2015.
There you go. Today I learned, Adrian. So don't say I didn't teach you anything.
And I apparently had I've got the password for a Linode instance that I spun up in 2014.
There you go. Decade old.
Yep. Oh man, there's some security companies in here that don't exist anymore that I had accounts on, like the early beta versions of their products. I have a Webroot trial from 2015. This is great. Yeah, no, I didn't even realize I could do this with 1Password. But yeah, using the sort feature, I can do half of what you're saying. And the other half,
that's the hard part, though, because how do you automate deleting like 700 accounts?
Yeah, because I don't want to just delete it from 1Password. Like, if my data is still out there, like if I'm going to delete it from 1Password, I need to go to the site and just nuke my account, right?
Right. That would be the cool feature, and that's almost impossible to build.
Yeah, because it's going to be custom for each one.
Yep, and most of those target sites don't have the ability to delete the account anyways. They don't want to give you the ability to get off their system.
Now, one of the cool things is if you signed up for that site through Essential Service, like one of the things I love about PayPal, I use PayPal with subscriptions as often as possible, because then if you want to unsubscribe from a whole bunch of stuff, I can just go to my PayPal subscriptions page and go cancel. And I've done that before, and it's so easy. So the equivalent of deleting accounts like that would be interesting. Like if I could just go to Google and say, unlink, and have it delete my account. All right, yeah, password managers, we'll see. I think they're gonna stick around forever, but I don't know if there's, if a $20 billion market cap is justified here, or whatever the market cap is. 1Password, their last raise was 620. They've raised just shy of 1 billion total in the last 3 years, because they were bootstrapped and took their first funding in 2019. So in just 3 years, they've raised $1 billion. So that valuation has to be huge.
Well, think about it. It says here on your notes here that LastPass recently spun out of private equity land at $200 million in revenue in 2021. So that's 2 years ago. LastPass was at 200 million. I would argue 1Password as a brand is more noticeable. People generally talk about 1Password kind of in lockstep with LastPass, but they're 1 and 2. So their revenue's got to be close to, somewhere between 2 and 500 million for 1Password.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money a year.
Yep. Yeah, and they were initially, I think LastPass was always enterprise, but 1Password was initially a consumer product, and then they added family, then they added teams for like small cloud first startups, and then they added enterprise. So they pretty much covered everything now.
I cannot believe they're not a publicly traded company. I cannot believe LastPass did not make it to publicly traded status either.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly been talk about it. I don't know what their investors intend for them, though. And their investors have to have a lot of say with $1 billion. Yep, $1 billion invested. Sure. I can't imagine how much is left there for the original founders. I don't know. All right, Cymulate. We get not only a fundraise, but a new buzzword here. I'm not sure when they started using extended security posture management as a term for what they do, but it used to be BAS. It used to be breach and attack simulation. But everything has to be posture management now, so now it's BAS, or now it's ESPM.
Yeah, this feels like marketing. We need to extend our TAM by making sure we participate, extend our total addressable market by making sure we participate into the next buzzword. That's really what this feels like to me. I don't think they've done anything necessarily innovative to get there. They're collecting posture information from all these systems and then simulating attacks against that posture. This is being done in lots of other markets, right? This is being done in the market that JupiterOne sits in. This is being done in some of the vulnerability management vendors are starting to push into this. You got the CNAPs and CWPPs like Wiz and Orca that do this kind of stuff. So I think they're just trying to not be left out of the next craze. With that term, it doesn't really change the fact that they raised another 70 million.
Right. Yeah, and it's I don't know. I haven't seen some of these products in a while, but a couple of years back, I really didn't like the direction it was going in. It was, more about quantity than quality, in my opinion. Like they would try and think up, every possible test you could do that something an attacker might do, like trying to cover as much of the attack matrix as possible. Where, to me, the real value in this market was, figuring out if you've configured your products correctly, which they still do. I remember at one point on the dashboard, one of them would tell you there's 1.2 million paths that an attacker can get into your organization or something like that. I'm like, that is not useful or motivating. I don't need to see that. Where I think they kind of really missed the boat here is training employees to respond to attacks. So, just kind of like maybe even like a surprise incident, simulated incident, the way that companies got caught up in sending phishing tests to employees. Really the people who really needed the practice were the incident response people. Make sure that you're able to find an attack or detect an attack in your systems and give you some kind of, pseudo live fire practice.
Everything's converging. Everything's going to, try to see the world. That seems to be the next massive platform play that somebody will have to dominate at.
Yeah.
And this press release or article even mentions, hey, this is trying to leverage all the insights from the tools you have in your environment. That sounds incredibly familiar to what we do, Tyler, or what SOAR does, or, there's just this mishmashing of terms. And it does beg the question, if everybody's trying to have this, one view to see it all kind of product, why do we keep creating all of these siloed tools, and what do we need? from this because it's not working how it is. But if everybody's trying to claim the same thing by doing completely different things, that's not going to help the situation. By conflating terms, it's not going to clean up the security market, the security products market in any way.
Yeah, I still think it's a really important segment because it's the only segment in the security market that's making sure your other security tools are configured and working correctly. So it's actually testing whether or not they work. It's just I'm not sure the approach, how they're doing it is the best approach. Kind of like how Scythe is doing it. Where it's more of an interactive, like, they give you different adversaries that you can simulate and stuff like that. It's not so much focused on let's automate every possible test, simulating every possible thing that an attacker could do. I like the employee training approach more, which when we had Range Force on, was that the one I was out for? Yeah, that was the one I was out for. So Range Force, like I've seen this done as services. Recon InfoSec does something similar to what Range Force does, where it's more of a service where they're, training your employees, making sure that, their processes and tools are actually going to work the way you hope they're going to work in the middle of an attack. So I still think it's an important market, an important product area. Any of these others that you want to talk about? So one of the things I did a bit different today is some of these companies, I wanted to at least get like a general gist of what they do, what market they play in, into my notes here. Because some of them I just, sometimes we have so many funding, I don't even dig that far. But here today, we've got a couple DSPMs, which is definitely one of the bigger fads we've seen. We've got Dig Security and OpenRaven are both data security posture management vendors. And then Opus Security is the folks from Simplify. So two of the original founders of Simplify have started Opus Security, which is kind of the second gen of SOAR tool that's much more user-friendly, much quicker implementation, quicker to build automations, allegedly. And so I presume they'd be competing with the likes of Rapid7 and Tynes, who we just had one of the Tynes co-founders on Paul's Security Weekly last night. That was a great conversation. So very happy to see new security markets pop up that kind of learn from previous markets' mistakes, right?
Yeah, that one's going to be a super hot one. And I'll describe it succinctly as the way I perceive that market to be, right? We have kind of three classes of tools right now. You got the point solution scanners that look at something, look for issues, and tell you about it. Maybe they do a little auto remediation, but most of the time, out pops flaws that you have to go fix, issues, vulnerabilities, whatever you want to call them. Then you've got kind of the aggregators that sit over the top of all these point solutions, pull that point data in, pull configuration and asset data in, and tell you context around the flaw. So vulnerability pops out of a scanner, and this system goes, hey, that vulnerability is connected to this workload and this person, and here's how you go fix it, right? So that's the second class that's massively growing right now. That's what JupiterOne Axonius do. That's what we do. This kind of third class now is coming out of, well, great, I have the vuln, I have the context, I know everything that needs to be done, but I got to hand it to a human to go do it, right? And that doesn't scale. It doesn't turn into an automation that can be done rapidly and quickly. And so there's this new kind of thing popping up that I think Opus plays in or will play in, or some of these new modern SOARs will play in. But really what it comes out is kind of a no-code automation workflow style technology that can automate the remediation of issues a high percentage of the time. Now, there obviously be big chunks of issues that can't be automated, right? Because they're unique, one-off, weird things. But if you could automate 50% even, right? Not even taking a massive number, but automate 50% of the flaws or issues that pop out of your tools, because those flaws are then wrapped in context that allows you to create automated workflows to fix them, that's a huge time saving, big dollar savings. And I think that's what Tynes, that's what some of these other kind of no-code automation workflow workflow players are really trying to tackle. I think that's going to be a massive market.
Yeah, and it's hopefully people aren't worried too much about like, oh, it's it's going to take away the jobs or whatever, because they're not jobs that anybody wants. They're the kind of jobs that burn you out. It's not fun work to do in the first place. And why else have computers if it's not to do the crappy stuff we don't want to have to do ourselves? Like that's the whole point. So literally automating that stuff becomes the job. Like being able to look at a process and say, that sucks and is easy to automate. I'm going to go ahead and do it, get it done. Like that's a huge value to any company, anybody who can do that, not just in security, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a thesis across the board for all technologies is like, look, the output shouldn't necessarily be an issue that you have to go fix. The output should be the issue is fixed, right? And that's what they're trying to get to.
Yeah. 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 And that's, I think there's a lot of fear around, that point in automation where you're actually changing how something works, changing something in production. I've heard guardrails talked about a lot in cloud. Like I remember, I think we had Rich Mogul on at one point, and Disrupt Ops before they were acquired by Firemon. That was their, they're all about guardrails in the marketing. And we talked to him afterwards. He was like, "Yeah, nobody's ready for that. It's too scary to automatically, start deleting EC2 instances and changing auto scale values and whatever you're doing with guardrails. It's kind of scary to take the human out of the mix in some of those, unless it's just something very straightforward that you've tested extensively, I guess."
So it can be. And I want to go back to a point you made earlier about fundings being back. Maybe. My comment on that is maybe it is, maybe it isn't. The fundings may be back. I agree with you in the fundamental sense. The fundings are back. But the real question is, are the valuations back? Because the fundings will come back very quickly if founders and other previous investors correct their valuations down to where they should be. The fundings will come back tomorrow. There is so much dry powder, so much cash sitting on the sideline in the investment community, waiting for valuations to correct, that this could be, if we see this number of funding continue to grow over time, I'm willing to bet that the valuations have come down to a reasonable level and you're starting to see the activity reoccur.
Look at Cymulate. Look at the numbers on Cymulate. I've got the valuation and the total raised there.
It was 100 and change and 500, correct? If I remember, I can't find it fast, but
pretty reasonable valuation on that.
That's right. But then let me add one other piece to that discussion. For those that are familiar with are you familiar with the company Figma?
Yeah, 20 billion. Adobe.
Yeah, 20 billion, 50x backward-looking revenue multiple. Compare that to the exit of Slack at 26x and GitHub at 23x. Figma is one of the largest, if not the largest, tech acquisition in history. It's massive, right? So when you look at those backward-looking multiples at 50x, this is going to be a weird dichotomy for early-stage investors because they can get big exits, but the valuations are going to be pushed down. They're going to have great leverage to push those valuations really low compared to what they've been previously, making them investments are just going to go through the roof. They're going to start putting money into everything again and drive that cycle forward of competitive investing. So it's going to be really neat to watch how this rolls out.
Yeah. All right. Moving on here. Just a quick note that the Google's acquisition of Mandiant completed. Sometimes it takes a while. So we talked about, it was shocking when we originally heard about it, but yeah, an acquisition that big sometimes takes 6-8 months to close. You want to talk about the trends a bit? I know we've got actually Katie's got a drop right at 5:15, I believe. Is there anything you want to discuss, Katie, before you have to go?
Well, I would love you to explain to me what prompt base is about because I don't understand the space at all.
All right. So the idea is you've got this AI art tool that you use words to describe what you want. So like, Shrek running through a field in the style of Van Gogh, for example. And because, and you can just chain it through, and you can say like super photorealistic, high quality, or pixelated. Like there's all these words that you can throw on that mean different things to the AI. And the language is complex enough that now putting together a prompt is almost like writing code. I've seen, like, you can pop out like almost perfect icons and logos and things like that. So if you click that link, if you actually go check out Prompt Base, what you can create is super clean and like ridiculously accurate. Like it looks like stuff you would pay a graphic artist on Fiverr for. Like this is going right after services like that, where you just need art assets created for a marketing campaign or something like that. So because
an immersive experience, right? Is that what we're talking about? Like, an art, sort of this immersive experience where it feels like you're in the painting or what have you, like a 3D or
no, just like I need Shrek running through a field in the style of Vincent van Gogh for my blog post. Like I just need an image to go along with my blog post, and I could pay somebody to do it for me, or in 60 seconds this tool could do it for me. And so because there's some skill in putting together these prompts, now people are selling their prompts. And so you can go to Prompt Base and you can buy the words that you need to put in to get one of these AI art tools to pump out the output that you desire.
Okay.
And I guess some of the danger here is it's going to be really easy to create exact copies of like copyrighted stuff with this. I mean, this thing is trained on real images. All these tools are trained on real images, so it's possible for them to output something that looks almost exactly like what they inputted, even though it's not the exact output. It's you're putting together the right words for it to produce that. So there are lots of copyright and ethical questions here. So kind of an interesting space to see what happens with this. But right now, like if you go to Prompt Base, like this is absolutely replacing stuff like Redbubble and Fiverr, for like art generation type stuff, or potentially could. And it skips a whole part of you having to learn how to write the prompts through trial and error, because other people have already done it. Now you can just search on Prompt Base for something that's close to what you need. And then you can, once you get that prompt, you can massage it, to something slightly different. I love how on sci-fi 3D realistic icons here, there's like an avocado in a suit of armor.
Why not?
What?
Why not?
Yeah, see, I guess I'm just old school. I don't really, I mean, I understand the concept, but.
Hey, Adrian, can I bring up a topic?
Yeah, go for it.
I'd like to bring up topic 21 under the wins section about a brand new.
I don't know if that's a win or not. It's just a thing.
Let me hype this up because I think it's pretty awesome. Our very own Katie has a new newsletter on Substack that I think you should check out. I read her first article today and I insta-subscribed. She's a hell of a writer and she's the co-host of the show. So please go check out Link 21, the Reformed Analyst, and subscribe to Katie's new Substack. I loved it, Katie.
Thank you. I have
thank you.
I have a couple of things coming up, and boy, do I have opinions. I'm much better at writing my opinions than speaking about them.
I feel you. It's sometimes I struggle for words when I'm having to talk about stuff live. So yeah, certainly I sound more elegant when I'm not speaking into a microphone, in my opinion. But
it's also easier to review what you're saying when you're not speaking it.
Right. Yeah, which makes it hard to go back and listen to yourself when you've recorded something audio based. I find.
I also have a Substack that has 4 drafts and nothing published because I can never seem to actually finish anything I start. So
I have so many draft blog posts, and a lot of it's because I don't really have any place to post right now.
Substack.
Yeah, I guess I could. Like I've got all these old places. Like I need to just set up a website and consolidate everything because I've got like a few things here, a few things there.
Done. Yeah. All three of us are going to write for Katie's Substack. It's going to be a universal. We're taking it over. It's going to be our Substack. That way I can write things that are inflammatory and angry, which is usually what I write, and I can publish it under Katie's and your name.
You know what, Tyler? That doesn't upset me whatsoever.
All right, we'll take it offline. I got one I'll pass to you that you can choose to publish or not under your name.
Nice.
Sounds good. I do have to jump, so I'm going to take me offline, but thanks for having me. Enjoy. I will throw the flame. Go talk about this Twitter lawsuit. Oh. That sounds awesome. I have opinions on that too.
Awesome. Well, we'll read your writing. Thanks, Katie.
Thanks, right. Katie. See you next week, everyone.
All right, Adrian, we're going to talk about the Twitter apocalypse.
Yeah, the Twitter apocalypse. So there's actually 19 and 20 are both Twitter apocalypse related, but I put 20 down as a win because, for all the crap that Mudge is going to take, he's at least going to be financially okay. He's going to come out of it financially okay. If a little bruised from the from all the attention.
Yeah, it's a good question, right? Because Mudge has been around forever. He's been in a lot of companies. He founded At Stake. He founded Veracode. He's been around a long time. I don't know if $7 million is worth the trade-off for the pain, right? And for somebody like that who's already likely, I don't know him personally, but likely financially independent, is it worth the pain? Holy smokes!
Yeah, so part of the whistleblower thing, I forget the percentage. We actually covered this in a story earlier this year because a whistleblower got a multi-million-dollar payout, but it was like 7 years afterwards. It's certainly not something that you wouldn't whistleblow just for the money because you don't know if you're going to get it at all. You don't know when you're going to get it. You don't know how much it's going to be for, but he will get some money out of that as well if Twitter ends up being fined as a result of this.
And while it's not directly Twitter apocalypse related, it's actually very similar as number 24, the fails, as the ex-Uber executive heads to trial,
Joe Sullivan.
Joe Sullivan trial. That actually plays very closely alongside the Twitter apocalypse problem, right? Is like he took the opposite side of it in many ways of trying to bury things and getting himself in some hot water that way. Versus turning whistleblower and getting himself in hot water the other way. And it just goes to show you that the CISO role is fraught with peril. Either way, you're going to have a very difficult ride.
So I learned there's a whole lot of interesting irony around the Joe Sullivan Uber story here. So I didn't realize he's a lawyer. So it's actually, he went straight from general counsel at Facebook to CISO at Facebook. That was his introduction to the security industry. Yeah, so
I thought he was the old school security guy. I didn't realize he came from the legal side of the equation.
Yeah, no, trained up until 2007, something like that, when he became the CISO of Facebook. He was a lawyer and worked general counsel. And not only that, but before he was working general counsel on the private side of things, he actually founded and started the like a high tech investigations and I forget the exact name of the unit in California, the very same unit that is prosecuting him.
Oh my! Wow.
He started. Yeah.
That sounds like it's double painful for him.
And Uber's off the hook. I forget what Uber gave up to get off the hook here, but I can't imagine, that he took the step without counsel's blessing at Uber.
Not if he's a lawyer.
Yeah, definitely not if he's a lawyer. That kicked off, the kind of cases that he's being prosecuted under. So that story is even more bizarre, I think, and even more unique than I had originally thought it was.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to follow both of those stories from a legal standpoint, but also recommendations as a CISO to how to handle yourself before you go into the roles, when you're in the roles. Like, I almost feel like there should be some very clear guidance that comes from both those cases that can be combined that says, if this happens, do this. If this happens, do this, and to give yourself the best chance of survival, because it feels like a very contentious role.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I wonder if it's going to have a chilling effect. I already, like a lot of the CISOs I know, it's an exceptionally long process to get into the role. Yep. A lot of them taking a lot of steps to get the employment contract, where they feel comfortable with it, and getting personal insurance in case this kind of thing happens and something is pinned on them personally.
Yeah. I don't know how close we are to running out of time, but the other one I would like to open up before we do any other squirrel ones or end this thing is the number 28, leadership security for growth companies. I want to jump to that one specifically. First of all, the contributors, the commentary contributors are a freaking who's who, right? It's Jason Chan from Netflix, Talha Tariq from Dade, where I can't remember where he's from off the top of my head, but
HashiCorp.
Lenny,
he was at HashiCorp.
Yeah, HashiCorp. Yeah, Lenny Zeltzer. Like, this is a who's who of wicked smart people. And what caught my eye, wicked smart people. What caught my eye specifically is your 5 bullets, right? Which are the H1s in the article.
Yeah.
That you've asked me multiple times, like, what's my investment thesis as an angel investor or a cyber investor? You got it right there. That is the 5 things that I like to invest in that have me excited, right? Because I think if you distill how to do security well, certainly in a high growth company, those are the 5 things that are the hardest problems to solve today in cyber.
Yeah, and I'll just read through them real quick. From 1 to 5, build a cybersecurity culture, invest in identity, secure your cloud and development environment, manage your data assets and environment, and monitor your third-party risk.
These are the hot areas. These are the hard problems in cyber right now.
Yeah.
So go read that. Go read number 28.
Yeah, and just beneath that, cyber insurance. I just thought this was interesting. I was just checking out their site. Was a cyber insurance. I'm not sure what to call them. Provider. Like, insurance has its own language that I'm not great with, but I thought it was interesting that they're now providing cryptojacking coverage, bricking coverage, which suggests that a lot of these extortion cases, they're not even bothering to encrypt data anymore. They're just bricking systems. Pay now. So I'm going to brick 5 computers for every hour you don't pay. Right? Like you're just going to lose more and more systems. And if your firmware isn't locked down, if your systems aren't locked down, this would be a topic Paul would get excited to talk on, because that's kind of what Eclipsium does. I mean, he was talking last night when he was talking about his new Framework laptop. Me and him are big fans of this company, Framework, who make this very highly repairable laptop. One of the vulnerabilities they see is it just makes it really easy to brick a device to where, it's not just reinstalling the operating system. Like that hardware is done. Like you're not going to be able to recover it at all. And we've seen state-sponsored attacks like this, like the one that hit Saudi Aramco. I think wiped out something like 30,000 computers in one go, and it was such a big issue. They had to replace every physical hard drive in the systems, not the entire system, but all the hard drives. And it had a direct impact on the global supply chain for hard drives, because they had to buy so many hard drives to get everything back up and running.
There's so many examples of that kind of brick attack in history. I mean, it just kind of reminded me of, and it wasn't really a brick attack. It was a brick defense, which was kind of unique. Back when I was hacking satellite and reprogramming satellite cards in DirecTV boxes in this must have been 2020 years ago. And so, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, whatever people were hacking their cards. And it was a similar brick approach that DirecTV took to stop us. what they did was they actually bricked the cards. They could detect remotely which ones had been hacked, and then did a tight loop on our cards, so we couldn't reprogram. And they basically nuked your cards, so you essentially lost your DirecTV, including the system. So they bricked all of us who were hacking it, which is an interesting defense.
You remember Inspector Gadget? This message will self-destruct. At the beginning of every episode,
DirecTV system will self-destruct, and it did. It did. I lost lots and lots of cards back in that era.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, and this is it's the next thing, and that's why I get upset every time I see a company saying, "Oh, we've got the solution to the ransomware problem," and it's some kind of data backup type thing. I'm like, nah, the bad guys are already prepared for that. They're going to copy your data off, threaten to expose it. Or now, just brick your devices.
Yeah, ransomware is not a solvable problem. Anybody that claims that they can solve ransomware, it is not a solvable problem because it's an outcome of another problem. I.e., you were hacked some other way. They penetrated your system, and the outcome is ransomware, right? So it's not really a solvable problem.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Let me see if there's any others I just really need to mention before we get to the fun ones. Yonder was interesting. So number 15, not really a security thing, but notable. This technology is a little bag that you're forced to put your phone in when you go to a concert or like a stand-up, like a comedy show or something like that. I just noticed Kevin Hart was coming to Knoxville, and they said that this is going to be a phone-free experience or something like that. And they mentioned Yonder, so I looked into them, and all Yonder does is create these little bags with these magnetic clasps that you need like a really strong magnet to undo. So it's not meant to be like unhackable, unopenable, but and they're going to monitor too. Like if anybody's seen on their phone, because it is pretty easy to bypass the bags, you get booted out of the concert or the comedy special. So
ever will this work? If you put a comedy special with 5,000, 10,000 people in the audience, and first of all, the logistics.
Every Kevin Hart show, every Chappelle show is using these.
So okay, how many people are in the audiences of one of those shows? Like if it's small enough,
these are like stadium, like
arenas.
Huge, arenas.
So let's call it 7,000 to 10,000 people. Every single person that goes through that metal detector has to put their phone into this little case that they then keep with themselves, and they have to figure out how to pop it on the way out. Oh my gosh, that's going to be one of the most ridiculous security things. I don't think it lasts. I think it happens once or twice before people are like, no way, we're not doing this.
I don't know, man. In my research, everybody's doing it. Like,
now, don't get me wrong.
I think the artists are pushing hard for it. They're like, this is the only way I'm going to
love it.
Yeah, this is the only way I'm going to do a show, because I don't want my jokes and stuff like that hitting YouTube and Instagram and TikTok like 5 minutes after I tell it.
Yeah, this is stupid, because the reality here is that these people just need to get over the fact that this is the new modern world and figure out how to entertain and do it in a way that, sure, tell people they can't do it, enforce it as best you can. But there's no way I'm putting my phone in one of these stupid sleeves to go to a show. I won't go to that show. Now, maybe I'm the abnormal person here, and other people will make it worth it. But don't get me wrong, I would love an environment where no phones exist. 100% would love it. But this is just going to cause logistical nightmares at big shows.
The funny thing is, I had initially my reaction was negative to it, and then I started reading just tweets and stuff like that about it. And I think there's this whole generation of people that physically can't go 5 minutes without checking their phone. So like the reaction for them is it was, they enjoyed it. It was kind of relieving, like knowing that they can't check their phones, that they have to be present for this whole thing. So I thought that was an interesting reaction that I saw.
Yeah, I mean, we could dive into the, ethical is not the right word, but the cultural discussion around this all day.
Yeah.
Like, I go to have dinner with somebody, my phone is intentionally face down on the table in front of me, right? They know it's not in my pocket. I'm not responding.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either. But
Most people,
it's not for us, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it's just not for us. You might be right.
Yeah. It's also notable that you no longer have to mine Ether. So Ethereum has switched to a proof of stake model. So I guess there's going to be a lot of used GPUs up on eBay soon.
Oh, good. Maybe I can finally build that gaming rig I've been wanting.
Heavily used GPUs.
Smoking. They've been burned in.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't read enough on this to know, like there's whole businesses that revolve around mining cryptocurrency. So I'm not sure how these businesses are pivoting to this new model. Obviously, Ethereum, there's plenty of other ones that are still proof of work and not proof of stake that I guess they could pivot to. But yeah, I wonder what that means for all the businesses with huge farms of GPUs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they were building huge warehouses that were, cooled warehouses and putting stacks and stacks of systems in there and draining power, and these were major, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of outcome type of businesses. A lot of them were being done in China. It was a massive thing in China.
Yeah.
So it's going to be cool to see how it gets cut down and where they pivot to. There's got to be something else that they can do proof of work for. Even
though they weren't allowed to use those cryptocurrencies in China. That's where most of it was getting generated.
That's the truly funny thing. Yep.
Yeah. Let's jump down to the squirrel stories.
Roll it up.
Yeah, I mean, the number 30 is clearly satire, but it's worth a read. It's Linux.
I gotta say, Adrian, before you describe it, I opened it up and my initial gut was like, oh my God, why? And it took me a second to realize that it was satire. I have to admit, I was fooled for like a good 5 to 10 seconds.
Me too.
Thinking,
me too.
Was SUSE Linux so cheap that Taco Bell said it was cheaper just to buy it, the whole damn thing? Like that's literally where my thought process went.
Yeah, and there's just it's just an absolute cornucopia of fun jokes. Like company announces new Chalupa cloud combo.
I mean, but really, if Linux should be allied with any food, it should be the flame broiled Whopper. A quarter pound of savory flame grilled beef topped with juicy tomatoes, fresh lettuce, creamy mayonnaise, ketchup, pickles, white onions, and a soft sesame seed bun. Now that makes sense.
And that's supposedly like a quote from somebody at Canonical.
Yes, of course.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. And then seems like it should be a joke, but is not a joke. Is USB-C naming is going to somehow get worse. And this is something like the average person has no idea that USB-C is named anything other than USB-C. But anybody who cares about specific protocols, because the speed changes quite a bit. If you're doing high amounts of data transfer or something like that, or you have like a USB-C dock or something like that, it does matter what versions are supported. But yeah, some of the branding and Wi-Fi is kind of the same way. It's gotten a little crazy here, where like there was a USB 3.2 Gen 2x2, and they just keep adding stuff onto the end of it. I mean, to the point to where the different USB versions sound like somebody's Starbucks order. Like a
and not only that, but they switch from letters to numbers, right? USB A, B, C, USB 2, USB 4, then versions on USB 4. So it's not even like they could keep a consistent, we're just going to do A, B, C, D, E, F, just follow the alphabet. They're bouncing between numbers and letters and USB 4 and 2, and it's brutal.
Yeah, Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 2X2, just madness, absolute madness.
Madness, cats and dogs living together. It's chaos.
Yeah, I didn't think versioning was such a hard problem. But whoever's coming up with hardware naming schemes is just is messing it up.
Absolutely.
All right, I think that's it, Tyler. Unless there's something else we missed that you wanted to talk about.
Adrian, I'm sure there's a million things we missed, but let's wrap this show up. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you too. And a big thanks to everybody joining us who watched or listened to this episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. We'll see you next week.